Hey guys, what's going on? Shah here, and today I'm going to walk through a 21 Azure Vault Brewmaster commentary. I'm going to go through kind of like whatever we did right, wrong, kind of our thought process throughout the key, and things I probably would have changed, like kind of in hindsight looking back, like watching over this footage. So I'm going to just kind of walk through all of that. This will be pretty much unscripted. So we ran this last night. This is a bolstering storming week, fortified. And this is definitely one of the harder keys to time above a 20, I would say. A lot can go wrong in this place. The checkpoint is pretty unforgiving. You kind of need to like be really aggressive with your trash pulls, and it also requires like either really good tank play or really good, group coordination with CC's kicks, etc. So I'm going to kind of walk through what my group did. Now keep in mind, we were all in Discord, and obviously being able to communicate through that outlet makes it very, very easy for us to kind of just talk about things and coordinate, kind of like walk through, who has what cooldowns, what should we do here, what should we do there, calling out externals, all that stuff. So we obviously have a little bit of a, pleasure outlet when it comes to that pleasure. What the fuck? Stop trying to sound smart. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead to the start of the key, and we're going to get this thing going. So the first plan on Fort Weeks is just handling this first room. So what we're going to be doing is I'm marking the lashers on the right-hand side. I'll also mark the lashers on the far side, and we're pulling all of this room together. Now, this is a pretty aggressive pull. You have to be pretty coordinated with your CCs, but lusting this first trash pull with everyone's CDs up and pots and all that fun stuff makes it really, really good. So we group everything up in the middle. We had Roar go out first, followed by Leg Sweep, my Leg Sweep. And what I'm doing here is I'm really just getting all of my cooldowns rolling, especially trying to solidify my Stagger, my Purified Chi, and we're going to pop a Celestial Brew pretty early. Some of these first frontals I'm going to let go off because there's no point in CCing them. I have a lot of big cooldowns rolling. As you can see, I have Fort, just fell off now. I have Dampen Harm up. I also have Nizao out, as well as Weapons of Order. Now, when these things get bolstered is when we're going to want to make sure that we're CCing. So there I threw a Paralysis. They are kind of staggered at this point just because of how the CCs have been, being executed. So we're just kind of, everyone's individually marking one or watching one of these Furies to make sure that they do not cast their frontal. We ended up letting the Arcane Fury go off on those mobs, which is their Enrage. I can always soothe it if I'm ever scared, but as long as we're getting stops, they really don't hurt too much. Now, unfortunately, like no one kicked there, so 2 of those Mystic Vapors went off. Definitely don't do that. That's why everyone got really low. I'm personally watching the Tender for their kick, so it's really on my melee DPS to make sure that they're getting kicks on these little lashers here. This is kind of a recovery pull for the most part, while we wait for CDs to come back up. And I do want to kind of highlight about that first pull again. It's not a good idea to do that pull if you don't have a lot of cooldown-based classes. Like, luckily we have things like Arms Warrior and Windwalker Monk in this composition. So we have like we get a lot of value from lusting and pots with CDs. Where if you maybe had like a rogue, maybe with like an enhancement shaman or something like that, like a comp that doesn't have as much bursty AoE damage, it might not be worth pulling all of that. I'm not really sure though. It really comes down to your comp. But this is a pull that we've practiced several times. So once this Arcane Tender goes down, we're going to just pull 4 more Lashers, and we're going to do kind of like a line of sight strategy here. So I'm going to pull these Lashers in front by using Taunt, and then I'm going to try to get a... I'm hitting Chi Wave, and I just can't get those Lashers to come. It's because Chi Wave's on cooldown. Normally I Chi Wave there. So what we happen is we bait the casts outside, they all go off, and we just LOS inside, and that means that we don't have to use any kicks or CC on the first set of casts. And now we have about 15 to 18 seconds to just do damage without having to worry about kicks. So that means our warrior can Bladestorm, and like our Windwalker can worry about like tab targeting and getting his Way of the Crane stacks up without having to worry about like kicking and all that stuff. And we're just going to blow these guys up. We have a couple of CDs rolling. Our warrior is an avatar. He's just blowing these mobs up. A lot of people ask, is Arms Warrior good? Arms Warrior takes a lot more skill to play than Fury. So if you, just because you see an Arms Warrior doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be good. Nama is just somehow insanely talented at this fucking game. Unfortunately, we missed the kick there. That was my fault. But we wait, we move off of our Rogue, and then our Rogue gets a Dispel to make sure no one else gets turned into a little flower, and then we're going to continue DPSing. The start of this pull was really scary. I kind of body pulled them earlier than I wanted to. It was an accident because I had tugged us up and I kind of jumped forward. We're just going to kind of back down the hill or the stairs with these guys and make sure that we're getting kicks. Most of our DPS have assigned markers, and I'm always watching this Arcane Tender. The idea is to kick the Mystic Vapor, and then of course I'm going to be kicking that Erratic Growth. That erratic growth cast can be pretty annoying for DPS because it'll typically target a DPS and then they get stunned for 6 seconds and then there's like a circle around them. And if you get dispelled or you immune it somehow and it goes off, everyone inside that circle also gets stunned. And it has like this really unique chain reaction. So you definitely don't want it to get off. Now, thank God, these little saplings do not bolster or drop sanguine or any of that stuff. So we're pretty safe to get really aggressive here and just pull the room like we normally would. We just need to make sure that we swap to tenders and focus them down, or cleave them down, I should say, as we get all 3 here. So what I'm doing is I'm just making my way around the room, trying the best I can to hold threat, and making sure that I'm grouping everything up. This pull isn't too scary. I want to try to save my CDs for boss. Yes, it's a fort week, but Leymor can get really scary on some of his tank busters if you're not a prot warrior. So we're just kind of grouping everything up. These saplings go down really fast. I see that my rogue wants to boon here, so I'm trying to ring away to get him some space. We have to wait for this eruption here, and then I think the boon goes out. Also, massive shout out to Stevie on the follow here. So boon goes out. Rogues can typically safely boon because they have like things like Cloak of Shadows and stuff, but it does get kind of scary if they don't have it available. And then our Windwalker goes down, unfortunately. He just got clipped by one of the pools that was spawning from one of these tenders. And now that they're bolstered, they're going to do even more damage. So now I want to start being really careful. I have Celestial Brew coming up now. We're going to get it off, and we get topped off really quickly. So yeah, so far so good. We're just waiting for a monk to get back, and then we'll go right into this boss. And I will say that I mess up once on this boss. I do actually die, but we are able to recover it with a quick battle res. The positioning on Leymor can get really sus, depending on kind of RNG. The general strat is to pull him between the center of the ring and the outside of this inner ring. And you want to always face him. You want to break the center. At least this is what I do. I always break the center, and then I try to break out one outside clump. And then what that means is that your group can kind of spread around. I've also seen strats where you destroy 2 on the outside, and that makes it so your DPS can have a little bit more uptime. It really depends on your group's like comfort level with this boss. Here I'm inching, so the boss doesn't move, so he's able to hit that one in front of him, the one behind me, and then I'm actually going to get a double hit here, which is really fucking clean. So I was able to destroy 6 spikes, which means that our next little explosive brands that come out is going to be really easy for our group to manage. I'm going to actually decide to keep the saplings kind of in the center. I'm going to stay in the center while not getting clipped by any of them, and making sure my DPS are breaking the little pine cone things around the edge of the room. I'm going to do my best to grab threat here. I did use the Decoration of Flame just to get snap threat. I didn't use it for really much defensive value, though it was, you know, it did get at big shield. So once again, I'm going to place him right on the kind of like the middle of this ring so I can easily turn him around. I'm trying to see which spikes might be best to clear. I decided to go for this one. Now, unfortunately, any, you know, seasoned tank will know that I'm already in a bad position. I try to back him up just a little bit, and unfortunately, I missed the far one here, which can be kind of annoying because now we need to for sure be like, we have to be so clean with our breaks. Now, the only thing I could have done here is I could have Ring of Peace. But what happens is I'm trying to get these 2 here. These guys burst. If I try to move, we miss. So I think I soak it. And unfortunately, I die. We get a quick res, and we're off. There's a lot of things I could have done there. I could have used Fort Brew with Celestial Brew, even though it would have been a little bit smaller. I could have ringed the mobs away. I could have also just let one stay up. But I opted to die. So kind of a little panic moment from, I was thinking like, oh, should I do A, B, or C? And then I just died because I was thinking too long. Just trying to get him in position here again. Infused Strike comes out. I'm going to use Fort Brew. And then we are going to get him in position and then sidestep. So just like that. And now we are kind of set. We'll have to do probably one last break and then we'll go for the tunnel. So one last little chance to pad our damage. I end up swapping over here and our Resto Druid moves closer so he can break those. And it looks like we're set. Gotta break Thundering and then we're good to go. I go for the leg sweep here just to make sure no one gets meleeed while I get threats. And then the boss is at sub 10%. So at this point, we're going to be able to tunnel. Just make sure that we're not getting clipped by those sappy bursts. And that's pretty much it. Leymor is kind of a joke if done right, except I definitely messed up there. But GG. So we only end up, for the rest of the run, we only have 2 more deaths. Yeah, so overall, like, very, very clean run. This is a really long run, so I might speed this part up. All right, our Windwalker got stuck behind a little bit for some reason, but we're going to just do this pull here. There's a lot of groups that skip this. This is kind of a weird pull when it comes to, like, just efficiency, right? It's just 2 mobs. It's not great to use cooldowns for, but luckily we have an Arms Warrior with Sweeping Strikes. And what this does is it kind of lets us have a chance to recover cooldowns if we ended up using them at the end of Leymor. We have talked about maybe skipping these 2 mobs with, like, Shroud. We don't always run with a Rogue, though, either, so having a like, using a potion here to skip past these 2, we don't think is as efficient as using a potion on a big pull. So we end up just opting to use these guys. We had all our CDs for this pull, but just the way it worked with Leymor, we were actually pretty fast on Leymor. Normally what happens is, like, Leymor's still pretty high. We send CDs like a second set or a third set, and then that pull right there was for recovery. Now here what I'm doing is I'm marking. For some reason my auto marker doesn't recognize that these elementals have a cast. So I'm marking some mobs, so everyone in our group knows who they're watching. And now we're waiting for Lust. You can see Lust is going to be off of the timer in about 10 seconds. Patrol's kind of in a bad spot, so we're waiting. Like, we have time, we're feeling comfortable. But waiting to double up this Patrol is going to be way more efficient than pulling 1 pack at a time. So here we go. Lust is up. I'm watching the Keeper for the root cast, because if you get rooted during the big swirls, you're fucked. If you get slept during the big pulls, you're fucked. So we're going to wait for the Leg Sweep on the first Waking Bane casts, which are about to come out right here. Leg Sweep goes out. It hits 3 of them. Second one's about to go off. I Leg Sweep to get that last one. And now we're good for about another 9 seconds or so, and we still have Roar. We still have double Ring of Peace. I'm taking a lot of damage here. Definitely I popped that Dampen Harm. I follow it up with, like, an Expel, or a Healing Elixir, I should say. And we're feeling pretty juiced. If this guy gets a cast off, we're probably dead, but it'll be good. So Forbidden Knowledge is the channel. As long as no one's getting hit, which you shouldn't be, no one will die here. Now, to get down to the bottom of the platform, you technically have to kill all 3 of these Curators. So we're opting into the route where we're going to pull basically everything all the way up to Azureblade, and then we're going to drop down to Telash. There are groups, I've seen strats where you actually skip this platform by jumping below, but you need a way to negate fall damage. And unfortunately, in this group, only our Druid and Warrior would be able to do that. I guess our Rogue technically could as well. In hindsight, definitely should have moved these guys away from where I'm positioned now. I was a little scared of the Patrol, so I was trying to hug this wall, and it just, like, ends up not really working out. Not that we lose anyone here, it's just, like, it's uncomfortable, and our Rogue ends up losing a lot of damage because he, like, can't figure out a good way to get into position. So yeah, that's, like, one thing I would probably change, is, like, pull this group back a little bit away from the wall. Also, something that happened in the run before this, we actually did a 22 Azure, but we had a lot of deaths in that run, is I tanked the mobs on the edge, and I got knocked off the edge from storming. So if you're ever in here as a monk, set up a safety transcendence. Just almost like every time you go into a pull, just set one down before you pull, and just in case. Just things that you don't think about, you know? I mean, by the time I post this video, the week's going to be over, but that's all right. All right, and then this is another thing in hindsight. We had Zuen, we had Avatar, we had Bladestorm. I should have doubled this. I should have pulled this into the next pack, but I don't here. For what reason, I don't really know. We were kind of playing really well this key. We already ran this key twice today before this actual run. So we were already comfortable with, like, who was he seeing first and, like, when to use defensives and whatnot. So I should have doubled it up. It's kind of a waste of Zuen and Avatar and stuff, but... And then at this point, I'm like, I can chain the Thrasher in. Maybe I'll wait for his giant root circle, and then I'll run in. So we can at least, like, keep uptime, and then he just stopped. He doesn't cast it until now. And then I'm like, oh, we'll kill it. We did not kill it. I thought it would die. I thought it was going to be in touch of death range. When I died, it was at 473k health. I think my health pool was like 460k, so we were 10k off of the, about 10k off of the touch of death. Just, like, awkward. Alright, so this pull is going to work just the same as most of the other Fury pulls. Not much that really goes on here. You can pull these mobs a little bit away from the edge if you'd like, but I'm just trying to keep their positioning consistent with the piercing shards. That one gets a roar off, which is really clean. I get a paralysis here. Oh no, we get the ring of peace with the leg sweep. A little bit of an overlap there, but not a big deal. I don't remember if I end up giving this man the Arcane Torrent. I don't think I do. The Enrage isn't too scary. You should purge it if you have the opportunity to, but I end up not. And then the Curator will go down here as well. This pull is very tame. That's why you should double that up if you're comfortable. I just, in the going forward, we probably will. But in this route, we end up not. And it will cost us. It won't, kind of cost us. We end up completing this key with only a couple seconds left on the timer. So it was a tight run, and that would have definitely saved a lot of time, especially with CD efficiency. Now this next pull is kind of hard to get set up. You have to pull both sides, and you need to be able to keep threats off of your healer while also dodging frontals. So you have to be very mindful of like where each mob is positioned. And now once they're all facing the same direction, you can see the timers on the side of my screen. They're going to kind of stagnate, so I can just kind of sidestep back and forth as I walk backwards here. The range on them is not very far. So we go to the right here, then I move back to the left, and then I'm going to go a little bit further to the left to dodge the two that are overlapped, and then we're safe. If you can line them all up at the same time, that's like the best case scenario. If they're staggered, just make sure you'll see here I kind of kite in a circle. Just to make sure that, so my melee DPS can be on the inside of the kiting path while I move to the outside. And then we're safe. I get a paralysis here to keep that patrol there because that's exactly where I want it. And we're going to wait for these constructs to go down before I chain pull. Now, if that patrol's in a better spot as you do this pull, you can pull it in, especially if you have CDs up. But I end up not doing that here, but we'll pull it into the next pack. I'm going to set focus to the Runeseal Keeper because I'm watching for the root kick. Just starting with the Decoration of Flame just to make sure I'm safe. We go into kick on the Icy Bindings. And then we're just trying to get everything stacked up. Now, my goal here is to just make sure this frontal is always facing away from my group. And my group should always try to look for where this construct is so they're not sitting on top of me. As a tank player, the best thing you can do here in this situation is always be very, very consistent with where you're facing frontals. Both with Arcane Furies as well as with this construct here. Most of the mobs are going to go down way faster than Construct. Constructs have a lot more health. On Bolstering Week specifically, if you can definitely try to prioritize the Construct, do it. But it's okay if you end up focusing down all the other mobs first. Just need to dodge this Arcane Bash. We're safe here. And now it's just like really just whittling this man down. And after this, we have one more pack to do, which will be the pack on the far side. I kite out a little bit here because him being forward bolstering with a couple White Swings incoming is just kind of scary when I don't have any cooldowns. I'm also just trying to keep my Purified Chi here so I can get a good Celestial Brew, but I end up dropping stacks. Same thing, this last pull is just like before, except instead of a Curator, and we now have a Thrasher, so we have to make sure that we're running out. So I'm going to try to save Ring of Peace or Leg Sweep for right when I run out, and so the frontals don't hit me. So there's one frontal. We get the Leg Sweep from, was that my, yeah, that was my Leg Sweep. Now I have the Ring of Peace to butt the next frontals back towards me just to interrupt them. And we're vibing. I don't know what CC we have next. I think this one just goes off. And do we roar next? No, okay, so I get the paralysis there. And then we should have roar for next if needed. Again, they're enraged there. We can always purge it. So I think we got a Blood Elf purge on that. And we're just vibing. If I really wanted to min-max, I would have kited that pack back towards this book so we could have just clicked the book right away. So we had a little bit of running to do here. It's little things like that that end up saving up a lot of time over the course of the run. So when I watch these runs back, that's what I like to look out for. This pull's pretty intense. We have double guard. And I'm going to chain it with this Seal Keeper. If I'm not mistaken, this is the pull that goes to fucking shit. You get a kick on the blade there. I'm keeping an eye out on the right side of my screen for the patrol. When the patrol starts coming around, I want to be up against the wall here. But here's the best part. Is I have kind of everything up against the wall. And then, if you guys saw that, I'm going to back this up about 10 seconds. The Runeseal Keeper right here. I don't know if you can see underneath my frame. You see the monks, Stormworth Fire, out here, hitting the guy for some reason. So they swapped out to him and pulled him back. Now, on a bolstering week, this is really fucking scary because this man fucks. Also, this blue circle gives all mobs inside of it a 25% damage increase, and it's bolstering week. And this attendant's about to die, meaning that they're all going to be bolstered. So, luckily, we clean up this really good. Real goodly. I get the kick there on the Runeseal Keeper. The Runeseal Keeper goes down, frontal comes out. I roll away. And now I'm Ring of Piecing the guys back because they're bolstered. I only want to worry about the Lieutenant right now. That's all I'm trying to focus on. My group is trying to kill the guards behind. I then call for a target swap because I don't want the guards to die to continue bolstering this man. I want his charges to drop. There I use Zen Meditation from range to mitigate the spell frontal damage. We have pretty high stagger. I do have 2 cooldowns available now. I have Nizao and I have Fort Brew, and Weapons of Order just came up. So here I'm going to Fort Brew on this next frontal. I also have Shout in my back pocket if I need to call for. This man is still double bolstered. Ice Cutter goes out. I need to drop Thundering here. My group does it for me. I Exploding Keg so I can dodge his auto attacks. Ice Cutter comes out. We're chilling. We big stagger. And we're going to be able to Purify here in a couple seconds. I get a big Celestial Brew for that hit. And then the bolstering actually ends up dropping now. So we are safe. We're in the clear. But that was like the most scary pull I think you could possibly do. I ended that pull at 60k HPS. That is big spook. Anyways, we continue onwards with our quest to complete this dungeon in time. I'm going to pull the guards, kick the attendant, or the Runekeeper, sorry, and make sure that no one gets rooted. The roots are the scariest thing in these pulls, because most of the mechanics are avoidable ground AoE, but if you get rooted, you can't dodge them, right? So as long as you kick roots, you're really, really good, and that root cast is called Icy Bindings from the Runeseal Keeper. You only need 1 melee kick for it, typically. I normally end up doing it myself as a tank, but sometimes when I need to kite, I'll say like, hey, I need to kite here, and then someone else will get the kick. Another benefit of being in Discord with each other. These guys bolstered are just super spooky, so I'm going to try to stay away as best I can while we kind of chunk these guys down. If it wasn't bolstering, I would have already chained them into the next pull, but bolstering the next pull early on is really bad. And then the last pull we're going to be doing here is going to be the guard, followed by these this Runeseal Keeper and the 2 attendants. So once again, I'm watching for the root cast, the Icy Bindings. It comes out right now. I'm going to kick, and then we're just chilling. Now, haters will be like, why are you pulling so much trash? You're going to see after this next boss, but we're going to do a lot of cool skips. And when I say a lot, I mean 1 cool skip. That I think has been talked about a lot. I'm sure content creators have talked about it before on their different channels. It's very efficient if your group is coordinated and knows what they're doing and can pull the start of the dungeon really aggressively like we have with these like kind of like large double triple pulls. But next is going to be Azureblade. This fight, we know that we're going to guarantee 2 phases, and then after the second phase, the second intermission I should say, we're going to basically tunnel and just CC mobs. I'm going to pull him away from the middle just a little. Position doesn't matter here. There is a runtime though for him, so when he does phase, he'll still take damage while he's running. So if you pull him all the way up against the wall, for example, you can get a little bit more damage. That's really only good for tunnel strats at the very end of a fight on like a high key if you're very close to, finishing. You definitely don't want to get a additional intermission, right? So whether that's a second, a third, or a 4th intermission, you definitely want to try to avoid those at all costs. First intermission with a 25% push is really, really good since he starts at like 40 energy already, or 100 or 50 energy. We like to try to stay as a group here. This is really efficient for group healing. So we're going to start on, obviously, the one we just killed, and then we swap, stay grouped. It means that F-flow efficiency is going to be good. That means Wild Growth will hit every target. There's all other healers prefer people being stacked. For example, Shamans can chain heal. You have Power Word Sanctify, right? As a Holy Priest. Radiance needs to hit all the targets. So it's just really important that you make sure you're staying together as a group, if possible here. Once again, pulling him away just a little bit. The idea for the tank here is to keep the cleave still until the cleave goes off, then you can swap to the ad. Everyone else should just swap to the ad right away. Sometimes Azureblade is facing a weird direction though. And whenever that does happen, you just need to melee need to be mindful. Don't spin the cleave, because then at that point it's the melee's fault if they run into the cleave, not the tanks. If you're spinning trying to predict where the melee are going to be moving to, that typically causes more issues than helps. So right here is a great example. So the cleave was actually facing towards the mob that spawned. Luckily, it spawned even further away, so we're going to get a little bit of milk damage after this point, because he's going to have to take that time to run to the center of the room. Blade comes out. I'm not going to use any mitigation for it. On Fortified weeks, it's not a big deal. On Tyrannical weeks, you definitely want to have some type of mitigation for every single one. We're going to start in the same spot. Once again, Efflo goes down, and we're going to start blowing up this illusion. Ideally, you don't want to move until after the swirls spawn, because you obviously don't want to bait new swirls onto the mob, because if people like charge in or roll in, right, they're going to get clipped by it. I did it on the first set, but not this time. I'm going to be rolling after the fact. And then, yeah, we're just playing it safe. This will be the last illusion, and then we're going to pull him towards the entrance of the room. And it's very important that we pull him to the entrance because it's going to optimize or minimize the amount of running time we have to do. Image goes out. Unfortunately, it's kind of in the way. We get the Windwalker's Paralysis with my Ring of Peace to knock him away to make sure that we don't cleave him. And then that should be it. If we do get another ad, we have another Paralysis from my kit, and we're good to go. 91% trash. We have about 10 minutes left, 9 minutes left. And now we're going to head back out into the Enclave. And the reason for that is because we're going to be doing this cool little skip around the edge here. Now, it's very important that you don't fall off like I almost did. And on top of that, it's really important that you don't jump down to the very bottom because you will die from fall damage. You want to jump down right on top of this little, like, I don't know, like protrusion from the wall here. Make sure we heal ourselves. And then we're going to be going into this pole right below us. Now, if you can counter fall damage, do it. If you're a tank like me, I'm going to start with Dampen Harm, and I'm going to early Celestial Brew. I know I had no Purified Chi stacks. Whenever I do that, people are like, oh, you used it at 0 stacks. It's like, chill, man. I'm just trying to mitigate some of the damage so my healer gets down here and comfortable. Anyways, these breakers are really scary on bolstering weeks. That's why we're skipping a lot of the ones that are inside, because they get bolstered up like 4, 5, 6 stacks, and they just one-shot your group. With their like Unbreakable or Bestial Roar. As you can see, I'm taking a lot of heavy damage here. I'm holding on to a good bit of cooldowns. Nizal goes out. I have Fortifying Brew up. And we're just cleaving these men down. And now we have one more trash pull after this. And this should seal our fate. Okay, so I'm going to be pulling things back because I don't want anyone to risk pulling frogs. Frogs kind of patrol around a little bit. I'm going to dip to the right just a little bit. I'm going to grab this looter. I'm going to grab this pack, Crackling Jade Lightning, the far one. Then I'm going to thread the needle. And then we're going to Transcendence back into this room. Now, luckily for us, I was trying to Ring of Peace them out here to try to get a little bit more damage on the breaker before we started cleaving the looters, because the looters are going to guarantee Draconoid Breaker getting bolstering stacks. They have way less health. Like a third of the amount of health. So we're trying to focus on the breaker as best we can. Beach Roar comes out here. We take a pretty big hit, but we know that bolstering will kill us. Now, something that is really cool about these breakers is that everything they do is line of sightable. You can line of sight the shoulder slam. You can also line of sight their shout. So what I'm trying to do here is back them up enough. So that was a 2 times bolstered shout. His next shout will be 4 times bolstered. We're going to bring him to the edge here. And what my group's going to do is they're going to line of sight around the corner if he doesn't move too far forward. They line of sight there. Everyone but our Druid was in line of sight. So our Druid dipped really low. Our Rogue should have line of sighted that shoulder slam. He took it to the face. He practiced cheat death. Not a big deal. That's why they have it, right? 100% uptime. Bisha Roar, we line of sight. Rogue was still out. Don't know why he's risking it, but I guess he's going to risk it for the biscuit. And we are sending it to the center. We are now moving on to Telash Greywing. Sometimes when I start talking about pulls like that, I get super into it, and then I feel like I'm casting the MDI or something. All right, so we're pulling Greywing back, and this is a unique strategy that everyone does. Frost Bombs we're just going to place on the edge. The reason we're pulling him back is so we can keep that first rune clear, and then we're going to start making our way downtown, walking fast. Icy Devastator, you can meld this or feign it. I recommend not doing it off the first one because it makes Frost Bomb timings really weird for the first set, but you can definitely do it if you want to minimize group damage. And then everyone kind of knows this fight. It's very simple. It's a pretty high HPS check fight because it's very consistent damage on the group from Frost Bombs to Icy Devastator ticks, as well as just a general aura that we take after that big old Absolute Zero. So we're moving here, and we're just going to keep moving around the room. I think we end up losing our Warrior because he falls off the edge. So again, be careful on Storming Weeks. As a monk player, make sure you're consistently putting down transcendences when you're near the edge of the room. Our warrior right here got knocked up from storming, and he fell to his death. And unfortunately, his body's going to be on the opposite side, so we're going to have to figure out a way to get back to him. But yeah, it's essentially just rinse and repeat. If you can try to, you can try to get out of your Frostbomb before you even take a tick of the damage. It is a very tight window, and if you do it too early and you happen to like roll or leap over someone, they will take the damage as well, just like my monk did to me right there. Now, luckily I'm a tank, and I don't take a lot of damage from that mechanic, but he took 2 hits instead of 1, which is because he tried to get out early and tried to avoid the first tick, but instead he took 2 because he clipped me. So again, if you do that, you want to be super careful. Our druid's going to run far to get the res on him. You can see him off in like kind of the left-hand side of my screen, and not anymore. But yeah, we got our res on our warrior, and we're going to continue with the fight. Now, we feel like we're pretty healthy. It's obviously going to be close. We still have to finish this guy off and get to the last boss fight. Luckily, we will have lust for the last boss fight if needed, and we will probably send it as soon as it's up. I think we end up holding it for a crystal set, but I don't remember. I've run a lot of these places. I would say you typically want like 3.5 minutes safely for the last boss if you're doing like a 20-21. Obviously, the more time you have, the better. But we still feel like we're on good pace. As long as we don't have a wipe, it's going to be a timed key. We're going to make our way to this last rune, and then we're going to just be basically tunneling. Also, massive shout out to everyone who stopped by my stream the last couple of days. I've been streaming almost every night. I'll probably stream again tonight, which might be before the video even releases, but I love it when you guys come in and, talk. I might not answer right away because obviously I'm busy, doing keys, but I like being able to talk with you guys in stream chat. So thanks so much for everyone who's come by. The link for my Twitch will be in the description, so feel free to check it out. Casually plugging in my own channel. All right, we feel pretty confident with 3 minutes to do this boss. Fortified, we'll have lust. Healer had to sit to drink for a second, and then we are off to the races. Dragon Strike comes out. I'm going to diffuse this one immediately to get rid of that debuff. And then we are going to dodge the roar. Just a gentle sidestep here. Name of the game is try to get this guy up towards the wall. It has a higher chance of crystals spawning together. It's not a perfect strategy. If you want to tank him in the middle of the room, by all means do it. But just know that your crystals will typically be even further spread out, which is obviously not great for most classes. There are some classes that are fine at dealing with like spread, mobs. But here we want to try to keep these crystals as close together as possible so we can get Touch of Death Cleave. We can get like just, Bladestorm Cleave. Rogue can do his little whatever rogues do. And yeah, Unleash Destruction always does big damage here. We'll connect here, 2 seconds left. I have 10 stacks. I'm trying to drop them the best I can. 10 stacks, we finally get... I think I got a Dispel there, actually. But we're just chilling. We have Dampen, we have Nizao, we have Fort Brew. Weapons of Order was just popped. Now, melee need to be a little bit careful of those orbs that are coming in. It looks like it's targeting our healer, though. Most of the time, it'll target healer or tank. It actually is kind of based off of healing threat, is the running theory. I'm not sure if that's like confirmed to be true, but more often than not, tanks and healers will be fixated by those, so healers can kind of control which direction they're going to be baited in. Our monk goes down. We get a quick res on him. Luckily, he didn't use any CDs there. He still has Zuen. He's waiting to make sure an orb is not on top of his body, and then he is releasing. Minute and a half, 40% to go. We are looking pretty clean. Shocking Disclosure is still ticking. Now, we're really just kind of waiting out to push. At 25%, we know crystals are going to spawn. We kind of want to milk that out a little bit, because if you look here, we have Avatar in 15, we have Zuen in 15. Rogues just do damage typically, so we'll be lusting as soon as these come out, and then cooldowns will be up shortly after the fact. Roar's about to go. Crystals happen at 25% push. We lust with drums, and then we send our CDs, and we just start zugging away. Warrior's helping me in melee. Our monk is in the back destroying those mobs. And then it's pretty much a tunnel for kill, 50 seconds. It ends up being a pretty clean boss fight outside of the one death. And that's pretty much it. Just rolling cooldowns aggressively. I have a big old Celestial Brew for the next Dragon Strike if needed. I pop it, and the boss goes down, and that is our 21 timed Azure Vault. So thank you guys so much for watching. That was our run. Not the best run in the world, but still pretty solid, if you ask me. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Definitely more Brewmaster content, coming through. Feel free to follow my stream if you want to see me play live, and I will catch you guys all in the next one. Peace.